we go. Hi, everyone. All right, so we're going to get the energy up here after lunch. I am Scott Brinker. I am VP Platform Ecosystem at HubSpot, write the Chief MarTech blog. I'm the program chair of the MarTech conference. And yes, indeed, I am sadly the person who has been, inflicting this graphic upon your lives for the past several years. I mean, it is crazy how this has grown. Right? Over the 8-9 years I've been working on this, what started as a few hundred marketing technologies has exploded to, well, as of the last count in April, over 7,000. Now, just as an artifact, whether you love this or hate it, just as an artifact, this is interesting to see how much change, disruption, innovation is happening throughout marketing. So what do we do about it? So I'm going to propose to you that there are 5 rules for dealing with this world of marketing technology. And these five very simple rules are, first, centralize everything you can. Second, automate everything you can. Third, decentralize everything you can. Humanize everything you can. Oh yeah, and then at the end of this, just prepare for continuous change. Now, if your reaction is, wait a second, you just put like automate and humanize, I mean, what sort of craziness is this? You're in good company. I mean, Augie over at Gartner, he had the same reaction. Couldn't decide if it was funny or sad. Thank you, Augie. My retort to him is, hey, I mean, F. Scott Fitzgerald, if we can hold 2 opposing ideas in mind at the same time, first-rate intelligence. But it turns out, actually, even though these things are opposing, in some ways, they actually do work well together. So let's consider just centralization versus decentralization. I mean, we'd normally think this was like a spectrum of one of more is less of the other. But actually, marketing technology has shown us plenty of cases where centralizing things also empowers greater decentralization. A few examples, right? Content management systems, classic example. Centralized, content management for the data, for the templates, for the brand standards, empowers a whole bunch of other people throughout the org to be able to leverage this for blog posts and landing pages. Customer data platforms, the hot topic of the day, right? They're about being able to pool all your customer data into one central repository, but to be able to pull that from a variety of sources all across your organization and then be able to push it back and make it accessible to all those other systems as well. I mean, even simple things like Google Sheets, right? This is a way of standardizing on a particular tool, but empowering all this decentralized collaboration. There's even something called application platform as a service. We'll actually talk about that in a bit, that lets non-technical people all of a sudden become developers. Centralized platform, incredible decentralized capabilities. Turns out the automate and humanize, there's a certain resonance that happens here too. We have to do both of these. What I find funny is automation can be either really good or really bad depending on who you ask. And sometimes the exact same automation can be both good and bad, right? Go back to the Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia. Hey, automation, go fetch my water. That's good. Hey, wow, a lot of these things fetching water for me at speed and scale, not so good. And you might be asking yourself, how does that relate to marketing? Well, that initial email that got automatically sent, that was great. The stream we then, attack people with thereafter. All right. So this is fascinating, right? When we think about automation, we're really talking about efficiency, but what we want to look at is it efficiency for the company or efficiency for the customer? And these are 2 different axes. Now if you've got something that's inefficient for the company and inefficient for the customer, we have a technical term for this, it's crappy. Plenty of these things out there. I mean, our ideal, not surprising, is, hey, it would be efficient for us and the customer. Awesome! What about these other 2 quadrants, though? So there's a lot of things in business that can be inefficient for the company, but really good for the customer. And in some cases, this is actually worth it, right? These are those brand moments where we reach out and we go the extra mile for someone. We help solve a problem they're having, even if it has to break some of our official rules or automations to make it happen. We win brand equity. The dangerous one is that upper left quadrant. right? It's where we go into this mode where we're implementing technologies as a way to increase efficiencies that we can identify inside our company, that we measure inside our company, but they're actually not making life better for the customer. And it's so easy to fall into that trap. And one of the things I always advise marketing tech and marketing ops leaders is you have to be the champions of making sure that these automations, we're looking at them through the lens of how they affect customer experience. You know, there's that campaign that T-Mobile did last year where they talked about this great new innovation. You're gonna love this. You gotta write this one down. They decided they would have a phone number that people could call, and a human being would pick up the phone, and that human being would solve your problem for you. Oh my God, this is so innovative. It's kind of high tech. You know, people loved it, right? Because there's this way of recognizing that automation, just on its own, isn't making life better universally. So, 9 minutes left. I want to propose to you, you can actually take these two different axes and slap them against each other, you know, as a grid. Centralize, automate, decentralize, humanize. You know, and again, the x-axis here is kind of like trying to balance scale and agility. The y-axis is about trying to balance people and technology. And if we want to put some labels on these 4 quadrants, right? You know, the upper left is really about efficiency in the organization. The upper right is about innovation, how we bring new technologies into the business. The lower left is about our brand. And the lower right is about how we deliver authenticity in that brand. So let me double click on this. If we go up to what do we do as marketing ops leaders in the centralize and automate quadrant? Well, this is kind of the core job responsibility, right? We think about standardizing the tools that we use. You know, the popular phrase is rationalize your MarTech stack. Every year I run a contest called the Stackies, where marketers send in a single slide illustrating their stacks. You can Google MarTech Stackies. There's a ton of them out there. You know, and this is an important piece of it. But then there's also about standardizing the data across these systems. And you know, we don't have to standardize all of it, but usually one of the pieces we want to make sure we get really clear on is identity. This becomes our key that connects these things. We work on some standardized processes, and increasingly we think about platformization. And I don't mean just platforms like, oh, well, what platforms do I purchase in marketing ops? It's how do I think of marketing ops almost as a kind of platform that I make available to the rest of the company. Because when we go over to the decentralized side of this, this is really about empowering people here to bring their own technological innovation. It's recognizing that local experimentation is so important for companies to be able to keep up with the speed of change in the world today. That actually we don't have to control all the tools in marketing ops. We can set up guidelines, we can identify valid vendors, and we can let people for certain tasks bring their own tools. We can come up with a way of federating data. It doesn't always have to be perfectly synced data across all fields for the entire organization. We want to find that right balance of agility and scale. And then the one I'm really excited about is this idea of citizen developers and citizen integrators and citizen data scientists. Now what the heck is this? Anyone see the movie Ratatouille? Come on, that's a great movie. All right, so anyone can cook? Well, I would say anyone can integrate, develop, analyze, you know. And somebody laughed like, yeah, that's going to happen. So I'm going to walk you through why all of you are actually app developers. You just don't know it. So think about app functionality and think about time. Whoa, okay, that is pretty deep right after lunch. All right, first step, how many of you use Excel? All right, or have used Excel or know how to use it, right? This was marketing technology before there was marketing technology. Well, nowadays, we've gone a step further, right? How many people use Google Sheets, something like that? Great, Google Sheets was a nice way to start to get collaborative work on a worksheet. Something else cool. You could have these things called Google Forms that let you publish a form out on the web, collect data in that form, and have it automatically piped into a Google Sheet. Now, in a really simple way, you've now created an app that collects some data, and it puts it into a spreadsheet, which is your own little database. Oh, well, that's kind of cool. How many of you heard of a company called Zapier? All right, few. So there's a whole category of these brands of integration platform as a service tools. A lot of them are non-technical tools that let you pass data between different cloud apps. So I can take data submitted on my website form, I can then route it off to my marketing automation system, I can pipe it into my CRM, I can, on certain conditions, send a notice into Slack. And now if I do that with Google Sheets, well, now I'm actually getting to connect all this to the rest of my stack. In fact, I can even take it further. This whole idea of using spreadsheet models to empower people has really gotten a lot of momentum in these past few years. If you haven't looked at it yet, look at a company called Airtable. If you can create a spreadsheet, you can create a web app. Alpha Sheet, Smart Sheet, Salesforce, Lightning Object. You like upload a spreadsheet to Salesforce and it turns it into a Lightning app. I mean, this is seriously cool stuff. There's even this thing called Glide app. You fill out a spreadsheet, it turns it into a mobile app. So all of you who raised your hand at the beginning of this and said, yes, I use Excel, congratulations, you're also app developers too. All right, let's get to the Humanize side of it. So what do we do when we think about decentralization and humanization? The number one thing it comes down to is marketing empowerment. Giving individuals on the edge of the organization the power to act in the best interest of the customer. Easy to say, hard to do. Because it's not just about marketing, capital M, marketing department. It's lowercase m marketing, how people in the customer service department, what levers do they have to pull to delight people? And, you know, what levers do our sales organization have? The folks who actually deliver operations of our product and service. We need to empower them. Marketing ops is thinking about that. We want these levers for empathy and intuition. We want to, as marketing ops people, get out from behind our stacks and go and spend time with customers in person, just developing that empathy and intuition. And to the degree that we're bringing technology to this, there's a whole new class of technology for helping us identify customer experience anomalies. You know, this is really in some ways the future of, you know, AI and MarTech is, you know, let's not just assume things are always great. How do we identify when things go wrong and fix them quick? We then fall over to the last quadrant here, which is really the big one, right? Everything sums up to here. This is the brand portion that we think about in marketing. You know, and marketing enablement is one of the pillars of this. So what's marketing enablement? We all know sales enablement, right? That's all a big part of what we do, about enabling salespeople to effectively engage with customers. Marketing enablement, quite frankly, is a lot about helping our own organization effectively leverage all of our marketing technology and data. You know, the recent stat from last year, we did a survey, approximately 2/3 of the companies who responded said they didn't feel like they had the skills to be able to take advantage of all this marketing technology. If you're struggling with this, you are not alone. You know, the folks at Airbnb, pretty savvy company, they pride themselves on being very data-driven. They built this entire infrastructure for data-driven decision-making. And then they realized, wait a second, all these people we're hiring, not a lot of them actually know how to do good data-driven decision-making. So what they do, they created a data university inside Airbnb. They run all employees through this. They've actually been very generous in explaining how they've set this up and how they run it. It's all on a Medium feed they run, so it's definitely worth checking out. Part of this is about this idea of enlightened governance. You know, whenever we're dealing with centralization and decentralization, it's not about just letting chaos rule and anyone can do whatever they want, but it's also no longer about having that really tight hierarchical control. We want to find the right way to balance these two things, and I think that's what we would call enlightened governance. And then a couple of things that you may have read about of, you know, increasingly companies, you know, putting together like a culture code, really defining, you know, the identity of how they do business, customer codes of what their commitments to customers are. And the reason I put this up here, things that marketing ops and marketing tech leaders need to be incorporating in our planning, in the way we're presenting this stuff. You know, as Dr. Debbie of Pedowitz here says, right? I mean, you know, marketing ops is moving to a strategic function. This is what makes that strategic. All right, last piece in the middle is change, continuous change. I mean, technology is changing at an exponential rate. Our organizations, they don't change at an exponential rate. The only thing we can try and do is make our organizations a little bit more agile than our competitors. But there's a lot of ways we can do this. We can design for change within our marketing stack. We can embrace agile marketing, red teaming, something called anti-fragility. How do we turn change to our advantage? But really, more than anything else, it comes down to having an open mindset. The world is changing, it's fast, marketing needs to change, marketing ops can help lead marketing through this change. So we put these all up here: efficiency, innovation, brand, authenticity. This isn't a grid where you want to pick one corner and say, oh, we'll go here. For marketing ops leaders, this is about how do we deliver consistently that entire spectrum to our organization and keep it changing. Thank you so much.